All right, and welcome to the Performance Injury Report. You'll see I didn't call it the Monday Injury Report today because we're doing it on a Tuesday. Sometimes, a lot of the injury news comes out on a Monday afternoon after we've finished doing the injury report. So today we have a little bit of a better idea of, what some of the severity of some of those injuries are. And we got, we're going into super wild card weekend, they're calling it in the NFL. There's 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. And I am joined, as always, by Dr. Mark Casimiro. How's it going, Mark?
It's going, man. Happy New Year, baby. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start with a team that made the playoffs. I'm sure people around here have been following along closely, especially anybody who is now jumped on the Tampa Bay Buccaneer bandwagon and followed Tom Brady and Gronk, down there. So wide receiver Mike Evans, kind of an ugly injury. You see his knee buckle as he's trying to come across the end zone to catch a pass and then stop short and his leg slips. It looked really bad. He went down, couldn't put weight on it. Bruce Arians came out yesterday and said that it's not as bad as it looked. The MRI showed no structural damage, and he's day to day. Are you buying that?
I have some reservations or some concerns. I don't know if I'm buying that 100%. I think the saving grace. I watched that injury happen. Like I obviously DVR'd the game and I rewound that like 5 to 6 times and watched it. I think what actually ends up saving him is the fact that he slips on the turf. His foot doesn't get stuck in the turf, and that's what you see so many times in that situation where a guy's foot gets planted in the turf, and then they have like a hyperextension or rotation through their knee. His knee hyperextends, but then he kind of slides along the ground. So I think that might have saved him from some catastrophic damage. I would venture a guess to say that he's probably got some sprained ligaments in there. I think that they're being a little bit coy because they know they have to play on Saturday. And so they want to make sure that, the other team, the opposing team, the Washington football team has to game plan for Mike Evans. I just don't know how viable he's going to be. He might be out there kind of in a, what's the word I'm looking for, decoy kind of role, where you put him out there, maybe kind of put him on a pitch count or he can do certain things, but he's certainly not going to have his whole arsenal of routes that he can run, and certainly not going to be able to be involved in all the plays that he normally would be. But we'll have to wait and see. I know a couple years ago, who was it? I think Antonio Brown strained his calf, and then 2 weeks later, he was able to play and played a big role in a big game. So, obviously they got some really good treatments and they got a great medical team over there. So we'll see what they can put together. I would assume that he's going to be in a brace on Saturday, and then we'll just have to wait and see. And I think you'll figure out in the first quarter to 2 quarters of how he's feeling. You'll know right away if he's feeling confident in and out of his breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the one consistent piece on offense this year. I mean, he's dealt with injury all year. It seems like he's had the hamstring and some other injuries, but he's been out there every game. Godwin missed some time. Gronk, didn't show up till later in the season. Obviously, Antonio Brown has come on, late after he was a midseason acquisition for them. But I think that they're gonna miss this. They're gonna miss him a lot. They're going to be going up against NFC East team, the Washington football team. So it'll be interesting. To see how they fare without him. Speaking of that team, let's talk about quarterback Alex Smith. He did not get injured this weekend or anything, but just about the season he had coming off, missing 2 seasons worth of football, all the surgeries. I just want to take my hat off to his surgeons and his rehab team. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, it's going to be a pretty amazing story. Is this a Disney movie that's going to come out at some point?
So I don't know if they did a 30 for 30 on it, but they did like one of those like E60. They did some type of like long, I don't know what the word for is, like show about him, about his recovery. And he had like 11 or 12 surgeries. He had a couple infections. Again, we know at the injury, when the injury first happened, they thought that maybe they're going to have to amputate his leg. I think the most interesting thing, or the most ridiculous thing that he's going through, that he's had to deal with, is that he has nerve damage in his foot. So he can't, we call it dorsiflexion when you're bringing your toes up. He can't do that. He doesn't have the strength in that nervous tissue to be able to do that, to get the signal to those muscles in order to do that. So he has to wear a splint and a brace when he plays to kind of keep his foot elevated so he's not tripping over his feet. It's something that we see a lot with some of our elderly patients who, after they have a stroke and they have leg drop, and sometimes they have to be put in a brace, and you'll see it sometimes after like a spine injury as well. And so they can't dorsiflex the foot when they're walking, so they trip over their feet. So then as a safety precaution and a functional thing, they put them in a brace that keeps their foot out of the way. To be able to play football at the highest level and play well and be able to get your team in the playoffs, I think is nothing short of a miracle. And I think it's pretty awesome. And I don't think people are talking about it enough. It's been a busy year with news, so I understand that some things get put to the back burner.
It has, but it's going to be one of the feel-good stories of the year, for him to even play a game, let alone now he's going to play it in a playoff game. So pretty amazing, and happy for him and his family for him to be able to do that. All right, let's switch up sports. I got one for you. It happened last week, right after we did the injury report, and that was point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant. So he goes down, gets taken off the court in a wheelchair, comes back that it's a grade 2 ankle sprain. So do me a quick favor and just explain grades. What does that mean compared to a grade 1 ankle sprain, and how much time do you think he's going to miss? This will be for anybody doing, NBA fantasy basketball.
Yeah. So an ankle sprain would be damage to the ligaments in the ankle, usually the lateral ligaments that give you that stability, anterior ligaments that give you some stability. So usually that's what you're dealing with in an ankle sprain. The higher the grade, the more tissue damage. So they grade them grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Grade 1 is like a 25% laxity. So when you compare it to the other side, there's a little bit of give there. The joint has a little bit more play. Grade 2 is usually in that like 50% of laxity. And then grade 3 is that 75% of laxity. You do get some small tearing in the ligaments with each grade. But then obviously the higher the grade, the more healing time your body needs, the more damaged tissue there is. So with the grade 2, they usually go about 4 to 6 weeks for grade 1. 6 to 8 is generally the rule for grade 2. And then 8 to 12 or 8 to 10 for like a grade 3. It also is the beginning of the season, so they might be a little bit more conservative. So I think that 6 to 8 week mark is probably a good mark. Again, these guys have a lot of games in a short amount of time. So any injury they're going to deal with very cautiously, and they're going to take their time with them, make sure that these guys are 100% before they get them back. Because, when they get back there, they might have 3 or 4 games in a week. That's a lot. So I would say 6 to 8 weeks conservatively, and we'll have to wait and see kind of what the information is coming out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, second-year player, rookie of the year, I think they are going to be cautious with him and try not to push him back too quickly and not to risk any further injury. Well, Mark, I appreciate you joining me at this different time on a Tuesday morning for the injury report. We have 6 games this weekend, so I'm sure we'll have some news, and that's in the NFL alone. I'm sure there'll be some NBA news. There could be some soccer news. So remember out there, if you have any questions about one of your favorite players, one of your, a player that's on your fantasy squad, and you want to ask us, remember you have to put it down in the comments. I check those every week. So even if you can't join us live, leave them in the comment of last week's episode, and I'll make sure to answer them on this week's episode. So make sure to do that, and make sure to join us, every Monday for the injury report. Mark, as always, thank you for joining us. Everybody out there, have a happy, healthy, safe week, and we'll see you next week. Peace.